If you're going to watch the replay, folks, I'll get started here in a minute. I'm just waiting to see if anybody shows up here. Probably not, but oh well. As I said, we'll get started here in a minute when more people show up. I haven't seen anything moving in the chat, but if you're watching the replay, we'll get to it in a minute. Or I'll just ramble on into an empty room, which is all I try to do is just pass on knowledge and logic to people, not a fantasy and not a bunch of BS. There we go. Thanks for hanging with me, guys. If you're in here, hey, badass, where are you from? What country? Well, what happened was is I lost signal along I-75 here. I should be good for a while now. It's just there's this one little area heading on 75 westbound. Right before you get to the Indiana border, signal just dies for a brief moment. Oh, you're from Canada, so you're good. Yeah, it's a dead spot. It happens right around Brookville and Clayton. It's just like boom, no signal, and I drive maybe 3 or 4 miles, and it comes back up. Yeah, in 2 days we have our presidential election, which I really haven't been paying attention to because it's irrelevant. It's entertainment. All it is a Punch and Judy show, and it's just like watching an episode of WWE wrestling, or even back in the territory days of wrestling. That's all this is. Everybody thinks after every election their country is going to improve immediately, and when they wake up to this nightmare and think of the past 40 to 50 years, has anything really changed for the better of the people of the United States? Not at all. Nothing's improved. It's only gotten worse. Drip by drip, slowly by slowly. It doesn't matter what side it's going to get worse. Why? Because we have the best political system money can buy. And that's the key word there, money can buy. Our corporate interests have bought off the political system. They did that long ago. They cannot let the massive majority of voters democratically vote. I mean, you can, they're going to let you, but they're going to buy off the politicians so nothing gets done. Doesn't matter who wins. Why? Because they want to keep their life secure, where they got the millions and billions of dollars, and everybody else is where they are. Because many Americans, generation after generation, think that one day that they're going to be well-to-do and everything else, but it only takes a little bit of maturity to realize that you're being taken for a ride. That's not going to happen unless you come up with some invention or you win the lottery. The American dream was a myth, and it always has been a myth. And even if it wasn't a myth, it's dead. It has been dead for a while. Because I asked the question, do you see a lot of, American people, just common American people becoming rich millionaires, rich capitalists? You don't see that at all, do you? No. Well, my only complaint of the whole thing is they come up with all these small issues that are nothing. They can't talk about the real problems here. They can't talk about the core issue. So they distract everybody by bringing up these small issues that nobody really cares about. And that really is not a crisis or a problem. What they're not talking about is the crisis. Well, they'll talk about it, but they just nibble along the edges of it. But the whole world's talking about it because they're witnessing it. But we Americans are living it. Some of us know it, but the mass majority don't. And they can't explain why they're so upset, why they're so angry, and what's going on. Because they'd take somebody like me to step forward if they're willing to listen and put their toys away and grow up a little bit and use their brain. Because common sense, everybody says, oh, you got common sense. Yeah, common sense, hence the word common. Common means that what everybody would know. I mean, common sense is what everybody has. It's the uncommon sense that I look for because you actually can learn something from them. Because every one of them that's following like sheep, either side, it doesn't matter, think that common sense is okay. And that's it. Well, look what common sense got them into, especially what happened the last election. Got a lot of them put in jail. A lot of them have a record. But either way it goes, it doesn't matter. They bought and paid, our corporate leadership have bought and paid for our politicians. They're going to have their way. These politicians can make all these promises and all these other things. They never follow through. Never. They may trim around the edges a little bit, but they're not going to address the real issue. The rest of the world's witnessing the collapse of the American empire. But a lot of Americans won't talk about it because either they choose not to see it or pretend it's not there. Oh, it's there. It's been there for a while. It's just slowly, progressively getting worse and worse. And people just think, well, that's the norm. And a lot of our college students graduating from the universities, one out of every 600 graduates of college will go on to have a good paying, sustainable job. The rest of them, no matter what degree they have, they're going to end up as a barista at a Starbucks making minimum wage. There's your American dream. Will never be able to pay back the college debt, will never be able to sustain themselves, and after college, they end up going back home and living in mom and dad's basement. There's a lot of that going on. But I'd like to address again, I didn't really harp on it, but I'm going to address it again. A lot, I don't know about anybody else's country, their media, but the media here in the United States didn't think it was important to let the American people know about the election that happened in France. What was that, 4 or 5 months ago? Maybe a little longer. That Macron is no longer the president of France or the prime minister. Jean-Luc Mélenchon is the prime minister of France. Where did he come from? He came from a coalition of a bunch of different political parties that united to become a coalition. Macron lost, became a dead last in a three-way race because he wanted to go privatizing things and wanted to raise the retirement age from 64 to 67. And the people were like, no, 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 no. But here in America, they did that. They'll probably raise it to 70 here real soon. And you think, okay, how many people actually survive to 70 years old? If you do the math in your own family and its history, your answer predominantly lies there. See, they already done the studies on this, but here in America, they're telling everybody, "Oh, everybody's living longer." Bullshit. You're going to believe it because he said it, or whoever said it. That's not true. Sure, medical treatment's gotten a lot better, yes, but yes, it's gotten better. But have we found any cures to anything? All the money we spent and dump into the no. And if there was, we're not told about it, and it gets shut down because the American Medical Association don't want to find a cure to any kind of disease or anything, because if they do, it affects their business. That's why instead of having a privatized system, make it public, like Canada has. You don't have a privatized medical system there. You have a public one. And people think just because they spend so much money on something that it's better than what everybody else has. That's not true. Just because I spend so much more money on a vehicle versus some other person that spent a fraction of the cost, does that instantly mean that I got the better vehicle? No, not at all. I'm living proof of that because I paid $1,500 for a car once. Yeah, I had to do a few little tweaks here and there, cost a few $100, but I had a car that lasted me 8 years, and I only spent $1,800 for it. But Americans have that mindset. If I spend all this money, that means I'm getting better than everybody else, and nobody else is getting it. That's not true. But people can fantasize, and they can think that, but in reality, most likely not. Just like know, I'm not going to say anything good or bad about Donald Trump. Um, I just lost my train of thought here. But people just, you know, blindly believe everything he says. He's done all these wonderful things. And when you set them down rationally and try to ask them, they can't tell you. They just repeat, parroting is what they call it, what he said. He brought all the jobs back. Really? He couldn't have done that even if he tried. Because the jobs that packed up and left for foreign countries are not nationalized. Those are private. No, no, no. Your private boards of directors decided to pack up and move and abandon the United States for another country for cheap foreign labor. It wasn't our government, and it wasn't Donald Trump or any of the other presidents. Now, Ronald Reagan gave GM a nice tax cut to pay for their warehousing over there in China, because moving a company like that is very expensive. So we, the American taxpayer, paid for a massive amount of American people to get their throats slit. They paid for that. But a lot of people don't want to face that reality. If you look at the city of Detroit, that's the one I harp on the most. City of Detroit in the early 70s, 2.5 million people lived there, all of them working. Presidents used to bring dignitaries to Detroit to brag about here's what our economy has done, blah, 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 and everything. Go back and look at Detroit now. In 1980 is when it really got going. And Flint, Michigan, and the surrounding areas of Detroit, it's a collapsed city. Detroit's the biggest urban bankruptcy in the history of humanity. 2.5 million now. I think it's right around close to 400,000 people in Detroit. Well, what caused that? Well, 40 people decided that out of 2.5 million. 40 people on boards of directors of the three major auto companies decided to pack up, abandon the country of its birth for cheap foreign labor. Now, that's why I want to pull my hair out listening to these country boys that are a bunch of undereducated idiots fighting back and forth between Ford and Chevy. And then talk bad about the kid that just bought the Toyota Tacoma. And not look at the reality of the situation. They're like, well, why don't you buy American? Well, Toyota is a Japanese company, yes. But where was this vehicle made? 30 miles from my house in Troy, Ohio. Where was your Chevrolet built, sir? It was built in three places: China, Hyderabad, Brazil, or Hyderabad, India, or Sao Paulo, Brazil. It's an American company, but the shit's made not in this country. So which one's American made? A bunch of Americans made that Toyota. But yes, it's owned by Japan, or some private owners in Japan that own Toyota. Plus, Toyotas are manufactured so much better, always have been. There's a lot of history behind that of why. All goes back to World War II. The United States, we've been living off that titty for 70 years, and now it's time to come off of it because it's not there anymore. It's all dried up. We benefited from that war because we had two big oceans that people would have to cross to attack us, which Japan did. They attacked Pearl Harbor. But we saw how successful that was. We have Canada and Mexico around us, which was on our side in World War II. So we weren't bombed on a daily basis like England, everywhere in Europe, Russia, Italy. We weren't bombed on a daily basis and had our infrastructure destroyed. No, we eliminated. What happened in the war is all of our competition, the companies here in America, all their competition was eliminated. So rightfully so, they're going to become the rulers of the world. But then when you started to build those countries back up, like Germany and Japan, that had, Volkswagen, Mercedes, and then you had the Mitsubishi, which made the engines for the Japanese Zero planes back then. But Toyota, Honda, Suzuki, all them companies. In order to compete with the American companies, they had to damn near make their vehicles damn near indestructible. The Japanese, close. You bought one of those miniature pickup trucks that they came out. Datsun was popular for that, but Datsun, I believe, was bought out by Nissan, which Nissan got bought out by Honda. They were damn near indestructible. My brother-in-law owned a Datsun pickup truck. Oh, what year was that? I think it was like a 75, 76 Datsun mini pickup truck. It wasn't Chevrolet that made the miniature pickup truck. I forgot what they called them. They came out in the 80s. No, no, no. Toyota did that because their roads are smaller over in Japan. Everything's a lot more compact. That's why the vehicles are more compact. And plus, the Japanese people are smaller than we are. But my brother-in-law owned one of those Datsun pickup trucks. It still runs to this day. Only half of it exists. He could never find the other half of the pickup truck because it was rear-ended in an accident. So they kept the front of it, got rid of the rear end of it. So it's got one axle. It was front-wheel drive. They got rid of the front, the rear end that was all smashed up. But you had to he attached a makeshift gasoline tank to the backside of the wall of the cab of the pickup truck, and he started it, and the thing ran. Even to this day, I remember as a kid when I was like 7 years old when they first got it, and they chopped it, and they did all that, and I was laughing my ass off. And I remember talking to my brother the other day. Yeah, I still got that. It's still sitting in the garage. Yeah, he's got a 1910 Ford. He's got I believe, a late 60s Triumph before they stopped making them. It's an antique Triumph. It's worth a lot of money. But he rides that. He's always took care of it. But those Hondas and Toyotas and everything of the 60s and 70s were damn near built to be indestructible. They had to build them like that, and they built them cheaply too. They cost a lot less than American vehicles. Like I said, just because you spend more money on something, does it make it better? No, not at all. Because you don't see too many vehicles from the 60s and 70s still on the roadway. Every now and then you'll see one here, you'll see one there. Very rarely. Because a lot of them blew up after 100,000 miles. But Americans live in the myth that this is the way things ought to be. Because I spend more money on something, it should be better than what you got. It's not always true. However, cheaper isn't always better either. It's like this. You're in New York City, right? Some guy comes up to you in a haste. And he's got a box in his hand. He said, I got a TV in here, and I'll tell you what, give me $20 and you can have it. What are you going to do? Just blindly give the guy the $20 and take the box? Or are you going to ask him to open it and show it to me? The guy's not going to open it and show it to you because there's a cinder block in it or some other bullshit to weigh the box down to make it feel like you got something in it. You pay him, he disappears, and while you open it, he's already long gone. And that still happens today. Guys at truck stops trying to sell laptops that are wrapped up in this bubble wrap, and it's got a Xerox copy of a price tag from usually Best Buy in it. Those are the price tags you see hanging from the shelf. Tells you how much the thing costs. And the guy knocked on my door. He goes, "You want to buy the laptop?" I'm like, "How much?" $100. I'm like, not really. Then brings out this other one, puts on. I say, "What? $200? You got both of these?" I'm like, "Open them up." He goes, "I can't do that." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know why you can't do that." I said, "You got magazines in there." But see, some people are gullible. For the most part, Americans are the most gullible people I've ever met in my life. Would common sense tell them to look in that? No, because a lot of people that have only common sense get taken for a ride like that because it happened all the time. There are some truck stops, like in West Memphis, that post signs up. Be aware of people trying to sell you something in the parking lot. It can be stolen, or it could be a block or magazines in a box. If somebody's selling you something, show it to me. Now, if they show it to you, you think, okay, there it is. Does it work? Let me plug it in. But that you're still not safe. You're like, where did you get this? Is it stolen? That's the issue. Because you get caught purchasing stolen property, it could still be seized from you and you don't get your money back. And what these people don't realize is, yes, they have tracking devices on this stuff now. You purchase a stolen laptop, they're not going to believe what you say. Oh, I bought it from this dude in the parking lot. You're going to jail. Not only you lost your money, but you're going to lose even more money because you're not going to be able to go to work because you're going to jail for purchasing stolen property. And that's America. Just like this. If you're around people that do illegal drugs, and you may not use them or anything of the like, you may have nothing to do with it. But if you're in a vehicle and the drugs get found, you're going to the clink. Unless the person who had them admitted that they had nothing to do with it, it was just me. That may get, you're still going to go to jail until they figure it out what's going on. But the problem is everybody goes. But I don't take any happiness or pride or whatever you want to call it. I don't say this with glee. I don't like it as much as anybody else don't like it, but I see it in reality. The American empire is living on a fantasy. $36 trillion in debt. That's a lot of zeros, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. I don't know. You think that's sustainable? And who's going to pay that $36 trillion? Yep, people like me in America. Even though I never saw a nickel of that money, but we got to pay it back. And who got that money? Well, mostly your corporate, like Raytheon, military industrial complex, they got it. The bailouts we've been giving out for years, $800 billion to AIG, a taxpayer funded bailout. That's what you call socialism for the rich, yes. Not for you, even though you may be out of work and about on the brink of getting thrown out of your house. Where was your bailout? Oh, we can't do that. I figured the majority of American people would have figured that out when 2008 happened, when they bailed out AIG, $800 billion. American taxpayers are going to have to pay for it. But do we get bailed out? No. How dare we? And the PPP loans that they gave out to a lot of people that went through the motions to get one. A lot of them that got millions of dollars, like one of our congresswomen, Marjorie Trader Green from Georgia, got one for like just under $200,000, and then 2 years later, when the pandemic is pretty much well over and everything, all the wonderful things that were supposed to be going on ended, did what happened to the people that took those PPP loans? Oh, we forgave all those loans. So they were just handed free money. Made Marjorie Trader Green happy. But when it come to giving the mass of American people student loan forgiveness, oh, we can't do that. I could have got a PPP loan, but I'm like, no, I don't need it. I'm doing just fine. As long as I stay out on the road, I'm an essential worker. Thank you, Mr. Health Director. I'm an essential worker for Oscar Schindler, if that means anything to you. An essential worker. Oh, what do we call our employer? Commandant? Why not? Gotta love this kind of language that they want to throw around. Yeah, well, here in America, I don't know about your country. Did I get a bailout? Did I get anything from markup? No. If I needed it, I probably would have went after it, but I didn't need it. Other people did need it, and that's who it should have went to. Hi, GJ. I can only glance at the chat. I did drop the link, if you can see it in the chat. If not, let me know. I'll repost the link. But I'm just a little uneasy. I'm just curious what's going to happen. But you got to learn a lot of Americans are full of hot air. They're not going to follow through with anything they say. No, they're going to let everybody else do it for them. And that's why nothing's going to happen. So we got all the people, screaming Civil War. Really? See, they just throw that buzzword out there to make them feel good, like they know what they're talking about. It's like, okay, let's break it down into logic. Let's say Civil War breaks out right now. What are you going to do? You going to go run and get your gun and run outside and just shoot anybody? Who are you going to know who to shoot? Who are you going to know who to fight? They think it's like, okay, you're my enemy, you wear the color blue and we'll wear red. No, no, no. Those days are long gone. Those days were long gone, disappeared shortly after World War II. I think it was right around the Korean War. You didn't know who the enemies were. Talk to a lot of, they're old. They're all in their late 70s and early 80s. But if they're alive, talk to a Vietnam vet. They'll tell you, we didn't know who the hell we were fighting. We don't even know who the hell we were shooting. Some of them admitted it. We're probably shooting civilians and not even know it. And we just say that, oh, they're Viet Cong. And they want to talk about who they didn't know who to shoot today. They don't think of things like this. Or are they going to go by somebody's race and just walk up to them and shoot them? Well, that's not. This is not being at war. That's called murder. See, we got people that are gun happy as hell and don't have a brain. They think they do, but they don't. Because I asked them that question: who are you going to know who to shoot? Oh, I'm going to shoot the Democrats. Okay, you're going to shoot the Democrat. Who are you going to know who's a Democrat? And they look at me like I'm stupid. No, it's not civil war that we need in the United States. No, we need to have a revolution, the second revolution. One more along the lines of what the French did in 1789. Then we'll see a difference. Because this Punch and Judy show, which is just like watching WWE, should be over in 2 days, but it's not. If Trump doesn't win, it's going to get ugly all the way until January 20th. But probably not, maybe not as bad because it's Joe Biden that's occupying the White House and not Trump this time. But Trump can create a big mess, yes. And he's going to go kicking and screaming. And here's why. It's not because he is worried about how our country is. No, no, no. Not at all. People seem to forget. He's a convict. He just didn't get sentenced yet. That was put on hold because he's running for president. See, he's running for president so he can pardon himself of all this crap that he's going to be facing if he doesn't win. So he's in this to save his own ass. He does not care about you or me or the tree. And these Trump supporters think that everybody else is a sheep that doesn't support him. These are the same people that in school asked and couldn't believe that the German people would follow Hitler. I'm like, oh, And I pointed this out to my oldest sister because she's one of them. She goes, well, it's different. I said, no, it's not. Donald Trump claimed to be a nationalist. That's a Nazi in the German language. That's where the word Nazi comes from, in short. It comes from the German word National, which is nationalist in German. But see, most Americans don't know that. And most Americans don't speak German either. If they spoke German, they would have known it. But tomorrow will be peaceful because there's no more campaigning. It all ended this evening, a few hours ago. That all ended. No more campaigning, so that's the end of it. We'll have one day of peace, and then come Tuesday, there'll be election. However, I already voted. I'm an early voter. There are some that are early voting. Totally legal. I'm a registered voter. I went to my precinct and I voted. And people don't understand that you cannot just walk up and say, give me a ballot and I vote. No, it doesn't work that way. Your name is on a ledger. That's why they put them in precincts. They may have up to a few thousand names in your precinct. And they look up your name as a registered voter. If your name is not there, you're not getting a ballot. But the news just throws this out there and gets people's ass hairs up for no reason. Like the last election, people had the mail-in ballot. Okay, let's break this down. The news won't explain it and break it down so people won't get excited. They just don't mail ballots to every address in America, to every American. No, that does not happen. Number one, you have to request a ballot. Number two, you have to be a registered voter. Both of those, yes, you'll get a ballot shipped to you in the mail with your name on it. All you got to do is sign it and check off who you're voting for. But the media wanted to make it sound like they handed out all these ballots to a bunch of people that are not registered voters, who don't identify themselves, that claim they want voter ID. We don't need voter ID. I don't know how all the other states do it, but you vote in Ohio, you have to show your driver and you have to be a registered voter, which your name will be on that ledger in that precinct. They smile at you, they hand you your ballot, you go in this little thing, you pull the curtain or shut the door, and you have a good time inside there, whatever you want to do. You're in there for maybe 5 minutes, pull the curtain, the light goes out, you step out, you're done. And you just either hand your ballot to the person next to the box or you just drop it in the box. A lot of times now, we don't get a ballot. They just tell you, okay, you're set up in this cubicle, number 1 through 25. They give you a number, you go to that cubicle, you go in, and it's all electronic. All I'm saying is this: Donald Trump does not have the same support he did in 16. Because a lot of those people that did vote for him in 16 shortly figured out that it was one of the biggest mistakes they did. But they did it because they were pissed off at the system. and they wanted to say "fuck you" to the system. They were tired of the career politician. They wanted something different. But a lot of them weren't blind by what Trump was. They started to see for him for who he really was, and they realized they made a mistake. So he lost all those voters. And throughout these 4 years, he's constantly complaining and he's constantly in the news. People are sick and tired of hearing this guy. Sure, he still has a large base. A lot of people show up to his rallies, but those are the same people that showed up to the last rally. I know a lot of people that, yeah, I was at that rally in Iowa, and I was at that one there and that one there. Yeah, he gets a lot of people that follow him around just like a rock band. People who can afford it and spend the ticket will follow their favorite rock band around. Well, they did the same thing for Trump. And because how many people you have at your rally doesn't dictate that you're going to win an election or not. Not at all. Because the clever repartees is lost on most Americans. We're not moved by this crap anymore because we see the system for what it is. Nothing's going to change. It's going to have to get disgustingly bad for people to finally say, hey, we need to do something here. Other than that, nobody's going to do anything. They've been pacified. And as Americans, we want to blame everybody else instead of looking at ourselves. But everybody's got Google. And if you want to know who the boards of directors and the major shareholders of companies like GM, Chrysler, Ford, Walmart, Google it. And you'll get all the names and probably a lovely photo with them and a nice three-piece suit that cost them 50 grand. You'll find out that. And then when you find out, those that made that decision. Most of them that made that decision back in 1980 that destroyed most of the state of Michigan, they're probably all long gone now. They're probably dead. But the facts still remain. That was what was decided by those people. And the ones that are elected to the board of directors are the beneficiaries. I just wish some people would come on here and really engage in this conversation that I'm trying to have, pass on this information. Try to convince me that what I'm thinking is wrong, because it's not what I'm thinking; it's what's really going on. But a lot of people want to throw around buzzwords, and when you engage people in this, they talk about one thing, and then when you blow it out of the water, they'll move the goalposts and talk about something else. It's like, no, no, no. Don't turn this into a fruit salad of buzzwords. Stick to what we're talking about now, and until it's clear, then we'll move on to whatever else you want to talk about. But people who lose are massively losing an argument and don't like what you're saying will do that. They'll move the goalpost. They'll want to talk about another issue until you blow them out of the water with that one, and then they move on to another one. Like the one that I like blowing out of the water is this. There's um, just about 11 million illegal aliens. Not all are Mexican. There's about 11 million illegal aliens in this country. Well, let's make it 15, okay? Because, maybe a few million people have crossed in the past year or two. Let's make it 15 million. 15 million people are the source and to blame of our economic system the way it is out of 340 million. Do the math, folks. 15 million is going to affect 340 million? I don't think so. Plus, I don't rock that boat because those people out there in California, they work their ass off for so little. And if they don't do what they do out there, that lovely bag of oranges or apples or fruits and vegetables that we enjoy in our grocery store year round, they pick that shit out there. Okay, you want to send them back. Okay. Heads of lettuce, let's just go with the head of lettuce, has been 99 cents predominantly for the past 30 years. I know because I used to work for the Kroger company. Sometimes there would be a sale, it'd be 29 cents a head. Going by inflation, we're probably paying a buck 29. It's not going to move that much. But what happens when you have to get rid of all those people and then hire legal people here in this country, and you have to hire them at minimum wage? What do you think is going to happen then? Do you think the farmer is going to swallow that cost? No, 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 no. So what you just caused was the price of fruits and vegetables are going to explode. So you pay what, $6.99 for a 10-pound bag of oranges? Well, you have to hire people at minimum wage to pick them. That bag of oranges probably just went up to $20. And those same people that are complaining about the illegals, when that happens, are going to be complaining, oh my God, the prices went up. And they don't realize that they slit their own throats. But they won't identify those people as Catholic because 90% of the illegal aliens that come across the border are Roman Catholic. But we can't identify them that way because that would get people to think. The only people we can identify them by their religion is Jews and Muslims. Jews and Muslims. Now, that's their religion, but their race is Semitic. So when you talk about Israel and what's been going on over there, if you talk ill of what's going on over there, well, then they call you anti-Semitic. No, how can I be anti-Semitic if I'm supporting the Palestinians? See how it dissolves on you? This foolish argument? See, everybody lets the media set your argument for you on the at the table, and you look at it and you say, well, it's not complete. The table's not completely set because you left out a lot. Namely, like if we're sitting down to a Thanksgiving dinner, you just left out the turkey and the dressing. How could you have a viable argument if you don't include everything? Well, the media won't do that. They got to leave it up to an argument, a stupid one at that. It's kind of hard to be anti-Semitic if you're supporting the Palestinians because those are Semitic people too. But nobody will engage me in these arguments because they know that you can't argue with that. And so they run away. And YT doesn't like when we talking politics. Well, they say that about everything. You can make everything political. No, what we're trying to avoid is not uh, siding with one side or the other, saying this candidate's so much better than that candidate, and he's going to do all these wonderful things, blah blah blah. Well, none of the candidates are going to do shit, and I'm going to throw that out there. Yeah, I'm going to talk politics, but I'm going to talk the reality of it, not a foolish argument. Because even if you're not an American listening to me right now, we're all similarly situated. If you're not a millionaire or a billionaire, we're all similarly situated. Like they said long ago, it's the 99% versus the 1%. Why do we accept that? That's the question I have. Why does humanity accept that? Where a tiny minority have it all and the majority are lucky to have a place to live and food on the table. It baffles me. And then I ask people who support that, which of you has a moral, ethical, or religious values to such a system as such as that? You think Jesus would support that? No. If you're being honest. No, we got some religions out there like the evangelicals saying Jesus came here to make us rich. No, he did not do that. No, when people come, hopefully people can watch the replay of this, what I've been discussing. Please comment below. I'll respond to it. But be careful. You're not going to make me out to look like an idiot. Because most likely, if you're going to post a stupid comment, like some people do, you're going to get embarrassed. And you're going to embarrass yourself. And I'll use your logic against you. And you're going to look bad. And to me, this isn't about having a gotcha moment. No. This is about looking out, which I support, the working people of the world. Not the rich, but the working people of this world. People raising families. People of modest means. Some people wish that they could work, but can't because there's no opportunities because some corporate capitalists won't invest. Well, there's ways around that now, which a lot of people don't know, which that information, you as an American, was kept from you on purpose. You look at where I'm going. I'm going to Minnesota. I'm going to go through Wisconsin. And the new one is Western Iowa. They really caught on to it and it exploded. Worker cooperatives worked out very well. I'm hoping to go through those towns again because I'm going to do a live stream just to show you folks, my fellow Americans, what a worker co-op can do to your town. Some of these farm towns look just as bad as Detroit, but on a low level. Used to. When they went to worker co-op, it looks like a town you would find in the 1950s. Thriving, activity, yards manicured, an actual house with a white picket fence that's not falling apart, manicured lawns, no boarded up houses. Matter of fact, all the houses have been rebuilt in the same design in which they were originally built. That's why they all look like brand new houses, but in an older style. Because I picked up a meat load out of one of these western towns in Iowa, and I was just taking them blown away. I said, "Yeah, we're worker co-op," and I'm like, "Finally, you guys are on the right track." Some people actually listened and went for it. A group of people in that town laid it out for the people, and they went for it, and they're not looking back. They're happy. They don't have crime. They don't have a drug problem in there anymore. They don't have people getting drunk and throwing up all over the streets anymore. The core issue that I talk about, maybe that's what to focus on instead of all these tiny issues that isn't going to solve anything. And you all from other countries can learn from this also because worker cooperative isn't about a country in which you live. I know in the Philippines they have worker cooperatives, but nobody's willing to listen. No one's willing to cooperate. You cooperate, who's going to benefit? Everybody involved. Not just, 4 or 5 people on a board of directors that's going to collect it all while you still live in abject poverty. No, 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 no. That's not how worker cooperatives work. Worker cooperatives are democratic. Just to let some of my naysayers know, I've been in my own trucking business for 15 years and doing very well for myself. Somebody that has been in business for 15 years and doing well cannot be a dumbass. I can act like one, but to be an invalid dumbass idiot, I wouldn't have been in business 6 months, maybe not even a month. Maybe I got something that I'm doing right. Maybe I know what I'm doing. Maybe my education got me to where I am. Just a thought. Could I have expanded my business? Oh, sure I could have. Many years ago. Probably 5 years into me starting my own business as a trucking company. Sure, I could have expanded and hired drivers, but I didn't. Why? Because I'm not a capitalist. Because I have morals. I'm not going to live off the surplus that my employees make for me. No, I'm going to try to get people to do it for themselves instead of working for me. because I'm not a capitalist. I am a self employed worker in a capitalist economic system. All the Americans think that they're all capitalists. No, you're not. If you don't have hired employees that you pay every week, you're not a capitalist. And if you do, you have a small business and have like five or six, well, you're a small time capitalist. You'll never be like Elon Musk, the Walton family, and all that. You're not going to be a capitalist like them. You can think that you're just like them, but you must understand you're not. And I know a lot of people, Americans, think that once they graduate from high school or college back in the day, they'll never work for somebody who doesn't pay them what they're worth. Then you don't understand capitalism because it doesn't work that way. Because that's never happened and it never will. You will never be paid what you are worth. You are going to create a surplus for the employer. Because if you don't, then they will fire you or not hire you because it would be absurd. If I hire you for $20 an hour, that hour you work will have to yield to me more than what I pay you. Because if it doesn't, I will fire you or I won't hire you. That's how the system works. And most of the time, when you create what you work on, what you're doing in production, we pay you $20 an hour. Most likely, on average, you're going to produce 100 to 1,000 times more than that $20 that I'm paying you to do that. I pay you $20 an hour. What you created that I can sell is probably going to be worth about a couple of grand. But and yet you're only getting $20 of that. However, your brains and muscles created that. Are you being paid what you're worth? No. I really love sharing this kind of knowledge. Now, a lot of people are going to struggle with that because they were raised to believe and accept without question that our economic system was the greatest thing since sliced bread and will never go away. Well, the people who articulated slavery said that, and the people articulated feudalism said that. So, of course, the people who love capitalism say that, but the burden's on them. Every economic system in history is born, evolves over time, and dies. Especially here in America, in Western Europe, capitalism is not growing at all. It's dying, and it's almost dead. And the longer we hang on to this dead system, the more pain it's going to be for everybody, for the mass majority. This conversation, what I've been talking about in the past hour, should explain everything. You focus on what I just talked about, the economy, then all the other issues mean nothing. They're irrelevant. But they won't talk about this issue. They have to talk about all the others to distract you so you don't touch on that issue. Yes, they know the American empire is dying. but they're not doing anything to either lessen it, alleviate it, or stop it. Plus, America wasn't meant to be an empire anyway. We don't need 800 military bases worldwide. We weren't made, our country, our founding fathers did not design us to be conquerors. Even though when the pilgrims first came here to this new world, there was nothing new about it. It always was here. The indigenous Indian Native Americans that were here been living here for thousands of years. But the genocide that the founding fathers did in that time is unrivaled. Even Adolf Hitler couldn't even come close to the genocide that we caused over here. Sure, none of us are responsible because we had nothing to do with it. We weren't born. But you need to recognize it and identify it. Total tribes were wiped out. There were literally over 1,000 different tribes here in the continent of North America, and there's not but a few of them left. That's where my other ancestry comes from. And you want to know what they were called? Savages. 9 times out of 10, you meet somebody here in the United States with the last name Savage, they're Native American descent. Because a lot of the natives took that last name, Savage. Ridiculous, isn't it? The irony. And they were called savages, and yet our United States Army were wiping these people out. And they think, General Custer was a freaking hero. No, he paid for it at Little Bighorn. But the people that are not an American here that can hear my voice, yeah, a lot of Americans have that mindset. We're the good guys, everybody else the bad guys. And we demonize those people as savages or evil people. We never look inward, but we are now, thanks to Donald Trump. Talking about the enemy within. Yeah, the enemy within. That's you, sir. One good thing about this thing is, though, Donald Trump cannot cast a vote. And a lot of people are upset about that. Well, yeah, no, he cannot. He is a twice convicted felon. If you're a convicted felon, you can't vote. So his vote cannot happen. If it does, there's going to be a lot of complaining. A lot of convicts are going to complain. Well, we don't get to vote. Why does he? Sure, he's still waiting on his sentencing for his crimes, but he's a convict. Why is he voting? He's not going to be allowed to vote. Because when he doesn't, after the election, which is 2 days away, after the election, and he doesn't win, they're going to schedule his sentencing for those two crimes. But that's not the one that I want to go after him about. January 6th of 2020. That's what I want to hear. I want to get it because you want to know what's going to hang him? A man who voted for him, who is a Republican and a conservative, but he wasn't going to cheat for him. Rusty Bowers from Arizona. His testimony is going to hang Donald Trump and Rudy Giuliani because he's already been heard when they had uh, the Senate hearings, which isn't court, but he already testified before the Senate committee, and all he's got to do is repeat what he said to the courts. But your MAGA people did not want to watch that. They let the news tell them about it. One thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to vote for a convict. I already told myself that. I already had my choice picked out long before I even got there. I knew who I was not going to vote for. But I did not want my vote to go to waste. I had to vote for somebody, and it was Jill Stein. However, Jill Stein was not put on the ballots in Ohio because the two-party system made sure of that. They make it so difficult for another party to come up to try to get elected. So I did one of the most ridiculous things at a voting booth I have ever thought of. And I knew it was coming. And the funny thing is, some other dude joined in me what I was doing. He came out of the booth after we voted. He goes, I'm an old WWF fan also. I was thinking that, and when I heard you say it, I laughed and I went ahead and joined in with you. Okay, those who watched the old WWF before it became WWE, in one of my favorite eras of wrestling, which was the 80s, there was a popular heel wrestler originally back in the late 60s, early 70s. He was known as Sugar Bear. He's from Mississippi, and he wrestled in the territories. And later on, he became this other character called Kamala, the Ugandan headhunter Kamala. Yes, he dressed and painted his face to look like a witch doctor type, a Zulu warrior from Africa. Yes, he did that. Uh, he was real popular as a heel, and his real name is James Harris, which is so weird. Now, Kamala and Kamala spelled the same way, just pronounced differently. Kamala Harris, James Harris, as it was the real name of Kamala, the Ugandan headhunter. Okay, now that you have this in mind, when a wrestler comes out from behind the curtain to come to the ring, they usually had music or something going on to come to the ring with. Well, when it got to the point where I had to pick between Trump and Harris, I let it be known who I was voting for. So there's not a whole lot of noise at this boating area. Everybody's whispering. A little conversation here. But as soon as I got to that point, in my cubicle, you heard ah ah. I did that really loud. As soon as I did, there was a laughter, and then I did it again, and whoever that dude was joined in, did the same thing I did. He knew exactly what I was touching on when I did that. And we're you know we're done, and we're ready to open the curtain, and here comes this lady throwing a fit. Who's making this noise? Are you okay? Oh, I'm fine, ma'am. I just voted. What was with that all that noise about? So, me and a wrestling fan here were having uh, a moment that we were both thinking the same thing. He was laughing his ass off because he got it immediately when I did it, so he joined in doing it. Ah, that was what you heard when Kamala, the Ugandan headhunter, the wrestler, come out to the ring. And his real name is James Harris, just like our vice president running for president, Kamala Harris. Are they related? Probably not. Yeah, he had a manager was called Kimchi, but Kimchi was played by multiple different wrestlers. Barry Horowitz was dressed as him. See, we didn't know this until later on. Somebody explained it. The Brooklyn Brawler was dressed as him once. Towards the end of Kamala's wrestling career, he had his manager became the Doctor of Style Slick. And he used to come out to his music. I'm a jive soul bro and always lying to your friends. I'm a jive soul bro and you never get nothing in the end. Shit. Yeah, I kind of figured that's what happened. They don't post the signs right. I got to get turned around because thanks to the road construction and the shuffling around of the signs, I should have took the left fork in the road back there because I'm on an interstate that I'm not supposed to be on, and this is a high val load. Where are you going, driver? You haven't gone 200 miles yet? Look, people don't know what the hell I got in my trailer until I tell them. And only two people on the planet know what I already have. I told them long ago before I picked it up. I got something that I would love some Filipinas to wear. I got lingerie for Victoria's Secrets. On the paperwork, it says ladies' undergarments. Oh, I know what that is. That's lingerie, baby. You can make it sound like something else, but no, no, no. Ladies' undergarments. That's the professional way of saying it. Using softer language. No, it's for women to dress up real sexy for their man. And if men don't want their women to wear lingerie, they're probably gay. Although I have not been able to look inside, and no, this time it's not going to North Carolina. like last time, is going to Minnesota, which I enjoy. I'm glad I'm going back up to Minnesota because I'm going to stop at Skull. It's a restaurant tavern inside the TA in Albert Lee, and I want those ribs. Oh my God, those are the best ribs I ever had in my life. I'm like, just give me the ribs. I don't want none of the sides. Just give me the ribs. I took 2 racks of them. You don't want no corn or peas? No, just give me the ribs. If you use your Google Maps, you can be anywhere in the world and do this. Use your Google Maps and type in Albert Lee, Minnesota, uh, Travel Centers of America. Just put in TA truck stop, Albert Lee, Minnesota, and you'll go right to it. Boom. And then you should see the restaurant. It's called Skol. Skol. That's like, that's what Vikings would say at a party. They'd hold up their horn full of drink. Skol! It's just like saying like in England, cheers. I won't get there tomorrow, but I will the next day. And I deliver on the 5th. Sad thing is, there's never any OS&D, not on lingerie. Because if there was, yeah, I get a few cases of that. I'm like, okay, ladies, who wants this? And the deal is, if I had OS&D and gave it to you, I get to see you in it, whoever it is. I'll give it to you for free, but I get to see you in it. I don't consider that a bad deal. Oh, Sean's just doing that because he's a pervert. Yeah, yeah, no, I'm just a realist. Why do you like looking at women without their clothes on? Basically, because I like looking at naked women. I'm not gay. Nothing wrong with that. Whatever floats your boat. I'm just not one of those. And men, we're visual. Women are not visual. Women are emotional. Men are not emotional. Unless you kick them in the nuts, then it's like, oh God. Ugh, I got to get a Warren Moore Lane. You get the chicken with ribs. Oh yeah. If I get to go and get those ribs again out of Skull, I will probably do a short video to show you guys. And I'll tell you what, man, these ribs are the best ribs you'll ever have. Oh my God, they were so good. Moist, fall right off the bone. That's why I'm not going to eat. Like, man, I want them freaking ribs, man. I want to be really hungry when I eat those too. Ugh. And they are worth the wait. There, now I'm on the right track now. Anyway, the deal was is I was trying to stay on this highway, but got let off of it. Excuse me. This is 465 going around Indianapolis, Indiana. I was on 69 heading towards Fort Wayne, but I caught onto it as soon as I missed there's you got to go to the left in the fork in the road because they separate the highway, and if you're on the right, you're going to end up getting on 69 regardless. That's what I hate about this road construction. I really need a coffee too, but I can't stop. I got to keep going. I still got I still got to drive another 30 to 40 miles before I can stop. Anyway, I'm just glad y'all listen to me. Maybe you can learn something, but things can get really ugly, and we're 2 days away. Um, just let everybody know that not all Americans are gullible idiots or unwilling to think. A lot of them just won't accept logic, and you hit them with it, and they still want to just remain where they are because they think that they cannot admit that they're wrong. They never can admit they're wrong. I will, and I have, and I've done it publicly. My proof: Share Pencil Artist was in that live stream when I told Shitstain, which is person like Go Go Bobo, I call him Shitstain, that he was right and I was wrong. He didn't know how to take that. I said, you were right and I was wrong about a certain lady, and I didn't listen. I mean, I listened, but I didn't believe it, is what it was. Because if I didn't listen, I wouldn't have repeated what I just said. I wouldn't have known that because I didn't listen to what he said. Or I listened to what he said, I just didn't believe it. But he was right. He was 100% correct. He tried to save me from a hoe. I'm just glad it ended up the way it did because, in a way, he did. But a lot of these people just don't want to admit that they're wrong, and their pride and their ego just won't let them. Anyway, you guys have a good night, good morning, wherever you are. I'm going to sign off here. I kind of figured there wouldn't be anybody here. Oh, well. At least you can go back and watch a replay. It's good information. I'm just letting everybody know that not all Americans will agree what's going to can take place in 2 days, and then what the aftermath of what's going to happen, because it's going to be an embarrassment and it's going to look ugly. People that used to look up to America to lead the way for the people, no, not anymore. America's for greed and the greedy. Who cares about the people? We give AIG an $800 billion bailout, but we can't help people that are can't put food on the table and just lost their house. No, we're going to make them sit across the street on the sidewalk, looking at the house they can no longer live in. That's America now. And they'll tell you how Jesus they are, try to out Jesus you too, how Christian they are. Like, oh, would Jesus forcibly put people out of their house because the way the economy is? There's no good paying jobs anymore. Well, you got to start somewhere. No, that's a good excuse, but that doesn't jive anymore. But just all depends on how long the Americans are going to tolerate it, and everybody in the Western world, because it's going to happen to you too if it hasn't already. You guys have a good day, and I appreciate y'all coming. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye bye.